I used to be an optimist. What exactly does it mean to be an optimist? Optimists see the good in everything. They believe that out of all possible worlds, we live in the best one. It might not be perfect, but an optimist will see the good in it. Optimism is a philosophy. It's a way of life. It might not be new or unique to any individual, but it can help people work through decision-making and their feelings and their emotions. I am someone who's very interested in philosophy as a whole. I'm really interested in how these theories and methods that were developed thousands of years ago are still implemented in our lives right now. I also wonder about how identifying with something like an optimist can actually harm or limit our worldview. The appeal makes a lot of sense. Philosophies can tell you what to do, what not to do, and why, based on the philosopher that created them. It makes things really simple, actually, but that's exactly why it can be so dangerous. Recently, there's been a huge uptick in the desire for standardization and efficiency, not just in business or entertainment practices, but in ways of life. Sociologist George Ritzer has recently introduced the concept of Mcdonaldization, which focuses on these 4 factors: efficiency, calculability, predictability, and control. These 4 factors have propelled McDonald's as a business. They have created a reliable and comfortable dining experience in McDonald's across the globe. It has helped a lot. As a business, I mean, in the United States, you actually can never be more than 115 miles away from a McDonald's at any given point. Fun fact. However much these 4 factors have helped McDonald's and other corporations who have adopted the method of Mcdonaldization, it has crept into many different circles of our daily lives. It's crept into schooling and education, politics, family life, and so many other social arenas, whether we're noticing it or not. Mcdonaldization has exacerbated the need for a standard, simple life. When we think of the word philosophy, we tend to think of some old ideas or texts that some really old guys thousands of years ago came up with. When we think of people that study philosophy, we can think of people who don't live in reality, people who are instead caught up in theoreticals or overcomplicated hypothetical situations. I'm here to argue it's actually the exact opposite. If you really buy into a philosophy, the guidelines and the rules are set out for you. It's so much easier to justify your decisions, your thoughts, and your actions using your philosophies, using your axioms. Mcdonaldization is just one of many examples of social theories or philosophies that we trust because they're tried and true. It's been done before. Again, they tell you what to do, what to think, and ultimately what we should be aiming for. And when we think of philosophy, we tend to think really, really old. We don't really think of modern philosophy kind of as words that go together. I'd like you all to kind of try and think of philosophies or words or phrases that seem modern to you in relation to philosophy. I'd like to give you a couple. Hakuna Matata, it's a wonderful phrase. Translated from Swahili, it means no worries. This problem-free philosophy was popularized by Disney's The Lion King, as I'm sure many of you know. I'll give you a couple more. Optimism and pessimism have stood the test of time, although they're not necessarily recognized by their names anymore. Instead, you can hear them in phrases like, "It's okay, we just have to remember the good that's going to come out of this situation," or "Everything is so bad right now, what's the point in trying to make anything better?" Do you have anyone in your life that's kind of a go-with-the-flow kind of person? That's essentially Stoicism. Stoics accept where they are. They believe that the universe dictates what happens around them. The only thing that they can really control is themselves. Even Mcdonaldization is based in Max Weber's social theory of rationalization, which is based in Descartes' philosophy of rationalism. Even still, these philosophies and ways of thinking from thousands of years ago that we choose to live by have so much prevalence and importance in our lives. I'd like to repeat that. These philosophies that we choose to identify with have so much prevalence and importance in our lives. There are so many identities that we don't get to choose for ourselves. Intersubjective identities. They're put in place by social structures. Things like our race, our socioeconomic status, or our age are all things that we cannot easily denounce. They're held in place by people other than us and structures that are very, very difficult to dismantle. The problem with these intersubjective identities is that they then limit us based on what other people think we can do. However, our outlook on life is our choice. It's something that's in our control. And of course, it can be influenced by your upbringing or your experiences, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Take someone who was raised in maybe an awful household, had maybe some not so good life experiences. They can still choose to maintain a positive and hopeful mindset. Or vice versa. Someone who was raised in a great household and has had plentiful opportunities in their life can still have a negative outlook on life. Your perspective, your outlook, it's a choice, and it's entirely your choice. And you might be thinking, okay, Anna, well, nobody who follows a philosophy or a lifestyle is going to follow it in every single situation, every single day of their lives. No one takes some rules or guidelines made thousands of years ago and follows them in every single situation. And I'll have to agree with you. I don't personally know anyone who is going to follow these rules in every single day, every single situation. And I honestly don't know anyone who would want to. So instead, I'd like to ask you, when? When are people most likely to fall into these one-track ways of thinking? When are people most likely to follow guidelines or rules already laid out for them? Something that's been done before, something that's comfortable. I'll tell you what I've observed. It's during times of discomfort, during times of disagreement and difficulty. When things aren't easy and you want an easy way out. When it's more comfortable to simply follow rules, follow guidelines, as opposed to asking questions or interrogating the choices that you're making. When thinking that the way that you think, your codes, your guidelines, your rules, using that as an excuse to not engage in conversation. When it would be more comfortable to stick with what you know. Back to some of our examples. Optimists very rarely like to change anything because they think that everything is as good as it gets. They participate in what's now culturally known as toxic positivity, which is when someone has to maintain a positive mindset in every single situation of their lives, no matter how bad the situation might be. Pessimists don't stop to smell the roses. Stoics don't feel like they have any control in their lives, so they don't control anything. They don't even try to. Rationalists replace emotion with efficiency. They replace spontaneity with structure. And so you might be asking, well, what's the solution? How do we solve this dilemma? If I stood up here and gave you a really nice blanket statement, maybe a couple rules or guidelines for you to follow, I think I'd be going against my whole point. I'd be preaching a philosophy myself. Instead, I'd like you to take what you want from this TEDx talk and the other talks tonight, as well as from different ideas and people and things and experiences. Be conscious about engaging in conversations, because those difficult conversations can create nuance and unity in our polarized world that craves division and simplification. The second that we stop thinking that something is worth having a conversation about is exactly when it becomes an even more divisive issue. We must push past perceived boundaries, look at the space in between, and open up a world of possibilities for ourselves. Be wary of the easy way out and get complicated. Thank you.